Welcome to Nutrition Minute with our host Justin Harris, and I'm Brad Hull. We're talking today about female competitors, especially coming off of very low calorie or very deprivation based diets.
Well, yeah, you find a lot of nutritionists work almost exclusively with females, and I think the reason for that is a lot of females in the fitness, figure, bikini industry come from an eating disorder background, and so you'll find when working with a lot of these girls later on is that their previous nutritionists gave them sort of I call them starvation diets, and the problem is a lot of these the female competitors will follow them because they come from that background of starving to look the way they want to look and a background of eating disorders. But the problem is that you end up burning these girls' metabolisms out, and so you work with a girl who's eating 700 calories a day, only protein, no fat, no carbohydrates, and doing it for weeks on end with 2 hours of cardio. Yes, they're going to get in shape. They're going to get in contest shape. And the additional problem with a lot of the figure and bikini is that they don't need to hold on to as much muscle mass. And so these starvation diets, the goal is just to get the weight off and the fat off, and they do work, and they will get the weight off. But the problem is that these females will rebound horribly after the show. You don't go from eating 700 calories of nothing but protein drinks and whitefish for 6 weeks with 2 hours of cardio to eating any semblance of a normal diet without blowing back up. And so I think that's a big problem in the nutritionist industry is not learning to work with the female's metabolism to get them in shape without burning out the metabolism. And it is a problem. You take a super heavyweight male competitor who maybe eats 5,000, 4,000 calories a day in the off-season. Say he eats 4,000 calories a day throughout the off-season. Well, you put him down to 3,000 calories a day, he's already in a 1,000 calorie a day deficit. So he's burning a pound of fat every 3 days, and he's still eating 3,000 calories a day.
Right, and that's after a 25% cut.
Yeah. I mean, but you can't do that with a female whose basal metabolic rate might be 1,200 calories. You cut 1,000 calories to get that same level of fat loss in a given week. They're at 200 calories a day. Right. And so that's what ends up happening. And so a lot of these, it creates a vicious cycle of the women work with a trainer or a coach or a nutritionist, and they put them on this starvation diet with an excessive amount of cardio, and then after the show they balloon up, and so it creates this cycle all over again. And so what I recommend with females is a much more sane off-season approach, but a lot of times you'll get them after that ballooned up off-season. So in that case, I try to work with them for a much longer period on their diet. A large male bodybuilder can get in shape from fat to fabulous in 12 weeks, where a female...
Is that what you're naming your new programs?
Yeah, fabulous in 12. But a female bodybuilder, not a female bodybuilder, a female figure, a bikini competitor can't do that same transformation in 12 weeks without doing that dramatic calorie drop. They just don't have the calorie range to work with. Right. So I typically recommend working with them for 16 to 20 weeks. And a lot of my female clients with figure and bikini will work with them year round. Mm-hmm. And the goal in the off season is to get them to try to build their metabolism up as high as possible. You really don't have a huge range. You might be able to get them from a 1,200 calorie basal metabolic rate to 1,400 calories, something like that. But that does make a big difference in the contest prep.
Right. Yeah. Especially like you said, depending on their size. For the 100-pound girl, 120-pound girl, there's a big difference between muscle mass there and calories that they can consume. One of the things that you mentioned is that huge post-show rebound to a lot of the girls that happens, and what I've seen in clients that have either come to me or what I hear from people who are working with coaches on these starvation type diets is the way to not rebound is to keep doing that for the rest of the year until they're completely burnt out. They're not going to even train anymore, and now it can even run into health problems.
Yeah, and they develop just a horrible relationship with food, right. And it grows into this whole eating disorder where they view food as bad, and when if they don't eat something that's on their diet, they're bad, and that just creates what I try to explain to mostly my female clients. I try to explain with everyone, but for whatever reason, societal pressures, it seems that the women have a bigger problem with it. I say that when you have a job, you build up vacation time. You get 2 weeks of vacation, and you plan for that vacation. And when you take your day off from work, or you take your vacation day, you don't feel guilty about not missing work. Well, I look at the diet the same way. You don't want to eat your diet food. No one wants to eat grilled chicken breast when they could eat a pizza. But when you have these physique goals, you have to follow this diet. Just like you have money goals, you have to go to work and to earn your income. Well, you have to do the same thing with the diet. And so no one wants to eat the diet, but it's just like no one wants to get up and go into work. You do the same thing. But when you have your cheat meals or you have your cheat days or your breaks from the diet, you have to take the same approach that I've dieted this long, I'm having this refeed day. It's just like my vacation day from work. I don't feel guilty about it. I'm not a bad person.
It's supposed to happen.
Yeah. It's there for a reason. And that I feel like women have a big problem with that.
And so what about when you say you're taking on a new client and either they've been on a a very low calorie diet for quite some time, or their metabolism is just in the gutter for whatever number of reasons. I'm not going to blame it on every other coach in the world or anything like that. But sometimes you get just a female who has been under that, like you said, societal pressures that food is bad, and so has been trying to eat less their whole life, and now they're at a point where you can't eat any less. How do you approach that?
What I try to do is I try to tell them take 1 to 3 days, whatever, depending on how deep down the rabbit hole they are. So take 3 days. Force yourself not to become disgusted with yourself or feel bad, but take 3 days, eat whatever you want, learn what it's like to eat until you're full, learn what it's like to wait to eat until you're hungry again. Then after that 3 days, we put them on a diet that's slightly higher calorie diet, but all clean food, and for maybe a week after that, we'll do 1 cheat meal a day. And their weight's going to balloon up, but we'll still do cardio through all this. But eventually their metabolisms start to build back up, and then after about a week, we'll go back to a off-season pre-contest diet where they're eating around the same calories as their basal metabolic rate, but it's all clean food, and like I usually cycle carbohydrates. A lot of times in situations like this, we'll do basically a low-medium carb day, basically a moderate carb day all during the week, and then we'll have 1 really high carb day with a cheat meal. And I tell them to learn to treat that high carb day and that cheat meal as your vacation day from work. Look forward to it, understand that it's there for a reason, and when you eat the food, you're eating the cravings you've had in that 1 cheat meal, and you're getting them out of your system so that the rest of the week you can follow your diet. And they will gain in weight, but eventually they reach a point where they're following this diet, they're not hungry all day anymore. You find the right point where they're ready to eat the next meal, and they're not, they're hungry when it's time to eat, they're not full and stuffed when it's over, and they basically maintain their weight. Then from that point, we'll try to slowly bring cardio back down and try to do the same thing, slowly bring cardio down, we're maintaining that same weight. And eventually you reach a point where they're at whatever, they'll always balloon back up that first week. But say they balloon up 10 pounds, you eventually reach a point where they're at that same 10-pound weight gain, but they're eating much higher calories every day. They're still doing the high carb day with a cheat meal, and they're down to maybe no cardio days a week. And from that point, you can start, reworking things to work on their metabolism and slowly increase calories even more without gaining extra weight. It's a long process, though. It's not something.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't happen quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it's an entire off-season approach.
Yeah. Very good.